previous video, you saw how you could get a list of processes, sort them in descending order by the amount of CPU that's being used, and filter based on how many rows you wanted to see. But what if you didn't want to just filter by rows? What if you wanted to filter by some other property? And when I say filter by rows, I mean filter by the top 5 that just randomly come out. For example, let me run this command again and hit F8 or the equivalent of it. Like, what if I just wanted to see processes that had a certain process name, like what we see over here on the right? Well, there's something that feels a little bit like SQL that you can do, which is a where command. So we pipe this to where, and then I do curly braces, $_ dot, and then I select one of the properties or attributes of the object in any given row or any given array item. And I'm going to say process name, and then hyphen equal for a comparison operator. And I'm going to say runtime broker. So again, it's very much like SQL, where process name equals runtime broker. I run that, and there we go. There just happened to be about 7 or 8. I'm not counting exactly there. All right. This looks good, but notice that the CPU stuff is out of order. So how would I fix that? I'd like to go from highest to lowest in my list. That's right. I would pipe it to sort. So I go sort, and again, property, CPU, descending. And then I run it again by hitting F8. All right, that's looking pretty good. All right, I'd like you to take a second right now and pause the video and do a little experiment. I would like you to try and find the largest file that exists in the Windows directory. So C drive Windows. And I want you to pull out just the first file as a challenge. So pause the video and come back when you're done. Okay, so assuming that you did that, one of the ways that you could do this is do get child item, and you could either do -path or not. It's going to work the same way, \Windows, and then pipe whatever comes out of there out to sort, and each file item is going to have a length property. So I'll do property sort it by length, and I'm going to put it in descending order. And if I want just the first one here, I could do select first one, and then I'll hit F8, and there we go. I got my answer down there. Okay, if you wanted to challenge yourself with something else, you might try searching the subdirectories of the Windows directory. There's a little switch that you put there that allows you to do this recursively. And for the Windows drive and folder and its subdirectories, you could challenge yourself by trying to find the 5 biggest files. Okay. So let's switch gears for a second, and with the intention to be a little bit lighthearted and have some fun here, let's do something quote unquote cool, as cool as we could be using PowerShell. So open up Notepad. All right, there's Notepad, and I'm going to make it a little bit small so I can put it up in the upper right-hand corner. Oops. If I could just drag it once I've made it small, that would be ideal for me. Okay, if I go over here and I do get process now, and I hit F8 to run that line, it spits out all the processes. And if I scroll up and I'm looking in alphabetical order, I see that Notepad is one of those items there. One thing I could do is I could do get process Notepad, and that's going to show me just that one process. Now, in some cases, there might be many objects that are returned by this command, like because just a minute ago we saw that there were many runtime broker processes running. So let's just say that I want to isolate on a particular one that gets returned. I could put this with parentheses around it, and then if I want to select the very first one, I could put 0 there, and if I just run this again, it's the exact same thing so far. But since I've isolated a particular object, another thing I can do right now is give it an unceremonious demise with one of the methods that's available on this process, which is kill. And watch the notepad up in the upper right-hand corner as I hit F8. It's gone. And if I did the get process list, it would again be totally gone. All right, let us once again switch gears and talk about another topic. Right now, you've been seeing things that are output in a format that we called table format. So if I do get child item and hit F8, again, it's got columns and lots of rows within there. But I can specify how I want the output to look. So if I pipe this to format-table, it's going to come out exactly the same as it always has been, but I have an alternative, which is format list. Get child item and pipe that to format list, and if I hit F8, notice how it comes out now. I've got, interestingly, more fields or properties that are visible than before, because before I was only seeing 4 at a time. And this actually reveals something that happens with format table, and that is that objects oftentimes have many properties, but the properties shown get truncated based on the width of the window or something like that. So there may be other things that are there, and format list is one of the things that'll show you more of the attributes that are available. Let's do another way to output this. If I do get child item and I pipe it to convert to HTML, watch this action. Ooh. So we created an HTML output, although this is not the right reader for looking at HTML content. So if I were to go and put this redirect symbol there, I could just call this demo.html and run it again, and you see that it ran there. And so let me go into a file folder, and there's my demo.html. I'm going to double click on that. Takes a second to open. It's taking too long to open, but I have confidence that it'll show up any second now and not ruin this demo. All right, so notice that there are even more properties that are being displayed for each object that was viewed. So we've got a PS path, PS parent, PS child name, PS drive, provider, mode, base name, target, link type, name, full name, parent, exists, extension, and on and on. So this is probably the complete list of properties associated with each of the file or folder attributes that we were looking at before. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. We don't need it anymore, but convert to HTML might be handy if you're trying to create reports that people are going to be viewing. Another thing that you can do is export to CSV. And if I type in export, and then one of the options here is going to be CSV. I'd like you to take a second and pause the video and figure out, either Googling or doing a get help command, figure out how to use the export CSV command to turn the output that preceded it, the objects that preceded it, into a CSV file. Okay, if you did that, then one of the ways that you could handle this is just simply typing in a file name afterwards. So I'll call this demo.csv, and hit F8. I didn't get any errors. That's the good thing. Let me go back into my folder again, demo.csv. Hopefully this opens up a little faster than my HTML page did. All right, now I have the same columns that I did in my HTML page, but it's in a really nicely formatted output, so I could, potentially pass this to a program or something like that. So, all right, so we saw at least 4 different ways to output content. All right, since we can export to a CSV, can we import from a CSV? And the answer is yes. So let me show you something. I have a file here called census1000.csv, and it shows the popularity of last names and then what percentage of people having that last name are white, black, Asian, Hispanic, etc. So in this case, Smith, 73% of the people that with last name Smith are white, and 1.56% of people with the last name Smith are considered Hispanic according to this data set. All right, so we're going to come back to that and do some searches and manipulation in a minute. But first, let me import this file. So I'm going to type import -csv, which is a very intuitive sounding name. And then I'm going to do $./ and start typing census. And I just love the autocomplete feature that we have available here. And I'm going to hit run. All right, and it's scrolling past in the screen, and about every 10 or so items, it's got maybe 8, it's got a new entry. So do you remember what type of format this is? I'll give you a hint. It's in the list of items up in my scripting screen. So what we just output was format list. So it might be more easy to view it if we change this output to format table. Format-table, and run it again with F8. All right, so now it's in some nice columns, just like it was in the sheet. Okay, if I want to play with this, one handy thing I might do is set it to a variable. So I'll just call this $CSV to represent my data set. Maybe, or I could have called it names, and that would be fine as well. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to set it equal to a variable, and I will run that. And so now I can just type $CSV and see what's in that particular variable. Hit F8, and it returns all the same stuff again. Actually, I'm going to take off that format table thing because I don't need that. That's not really important. Okay, so now I have a list of objects in here, and I can use some of the things that I learned earlier to do some searches, to do some queries and manipulations. So let's pose a challenge here. Let's say, what Hispanic name is most common? How would I do that? Well, it's going to have something to do with the % Hispanic column and the name column. So go ahead and pause and think about that for a second, how you might handle it, and then watch how this gets solved. Okay, if I'm going to find the one most popular Hispanic name, I would take this and I would pipe it to sort, and I want to sort it by the property % Hispanic, which is one of the column names, and I want to do it descending. So that means I'll get the most popular item. And if I ran it just like this, then I'm going to get the full data set returned, which is not what I want. So I'm going to wrap this with some, there's a couple different ways I could do this, of course. I'm going to wrap this with the parentheses and put a 0 there and hit F8. All right, so it says barajas. It's the 95%, 96% of people almost, of people named barajas are considered Hispanic. Okay, there's a lot of information that was returned there, some of it that I don't need. So an addition I'd like to make to this is I would like to pipe this to the select command. Now previously I've been saying like select the first 5 and things like that. But this time I want to do select, and I want to list the columns that I want to see in my report. So I'll go select name, comma, percent Hispanic, and I'll hit run. All right, so now it's back in table format and it gives me only the 2 pieces of information that I wanted. And I actually don't prefer this syntax of using the array, although it's fine. So I'm going to copy that, and instead I'm going to take that information and I'm going to add in a little bit more. I'm going to say select first, and I could do 1, or if I wanted, let's just say I wanted the top 5 names, I could do select first 5 and run that again. And there we go. So I've got a nice report of the most common Hispanic names and the percentage of people that have that name that happen to be Hispanic. All right, so we're doing some good stuff here. Let's, just for fun, I'm not actually going to do this one with you, but try this challenge. Show the names that are least likely to be white. So least likely to be white names, and select the top 10. Okay, so again, I said I wasn't going to show you that. Good luck figuring that one out. I'm going to stop here and then move on to the next topic in the next video.